Welcome to Scribe Studio. My name is Mark Walker, and I'm here with Brendan Peterson.
Hi, Mark.
Hey, Brendan. How's it going?
It's good.
Good. Thanks for being here. In one of our earlier episodes, we talked with Brendan about entity relationships in Scribe Online. And today, we want to talk about a specific feature that can use those relationships, and this is about, well, you tell us what it's about.
So it's about for each child control blocks.
Okay, so it's a special type of control block that helps you deal with parent and child data, or you can think of it as header and detail
Exactly.
data.
Yep, and it's just it's a mouthful, but basically it's going to be a block that we're going to use inside of our maps. It's going to help consolidate your design, make it a little bit easier to have, you know, kind of one map that does a lot of work versus a lot of maps to have to go through the same data over and over and over again.
Sounds good. So what are the kind of situations where you would want to use these?
Well, there's two main ones. First is, like you said, header details. So if I have a sales order and sales order line items, I want to get that in one fell swoop. I don't want to have to go through and, you know, add the header first, go into a second map, add all the lines, because that means that I could either the header could fail and the lines will then either be orphaned. I have more control over the flow of it.
Okay.
The other one is parent-child, which is more so what we're going to talk about here. And that's where I have an account, all of its contacts, all of its tasks, all of its activities that come with it. I want to move that over in one fell swoop. So I get the account, and by the time I see that, you know, Scribe's account is in my target system, the entire account, all of its history, all of its hierarchy is going to be there.
Right. So one of the things I said at the beginning was that we had another tutorial or a video we did about relationships. So without reviewing that whole thing, because people can go back and watch that, I thought it would be good if we did just a little bit of a review about it, and we talked specifically about the way Scribe Online handles this hierarchical data, this parent-child data.
Yeah.
And I know you prepared a couple things that you can show us to help us understand that.
So in here, what I'll kind of show, the first thing is just inside of Scribe Online itself. So I'll go ahead and create a new map. We'll call it, you know, Brendan Test, really creative, and basically get to a point where I can start adding a query.
Right.
So inside of my map, I'm going to pick, in this case, I'll pick Salesforce. I've got a bunch of defined relationships inside of Salesforce. And the way that they appear within Scribe Online is if I grab, you know, my account, my related entities, I can see all those different relationships. So if I go account to, you know, contact, I can see it's a child relationship to the account. So that way, it's all defined within the application, whether it's a SQL app, MySQL, Oracle, Salesforce, whatever.
Right.
There is that, you know, parent-child relationship, foreign key between the two.
As long as those things have to be defined in the whatever system you're connecting to. But then you still have some options to pick which relationship you want to use in your map.
Exactly. So in here, like I can pick, you know, inner and outer joins. So I can have, you know, a requirement that I have to have that object in there, or I can do outer joins where I just want to get, you know, if it's there, grab it. If not, get the account anyways.
Okay.
And the other thing you can do is if you look at like something like, you know, joining accounts, there are different relationships that can be defined. So there could be more than one relationship for each object. So this is a way that I can also be very kind of creative in how I do these joins, because I could say I only want master accounts or the parent account. So there's different, you know, relationships that exist in these systems, and they all kind of float up here.
Okay.
So one of the things that's cool, the other thing I built in this to kind of demo and show is how this represents itself. So when we say joins are kind of a loaded term.
Right. So the way that Scribe Online processes data, when we use the word join, as we're showing in this user interface here, you might think of a traditional database join, and you might have a visualization in your head about what that data looks like and what it's structured, right? Where it flattens that data out. But that's really not how Scribe Online processes data.
Yeah, so if I look at like a SQL join, so this is a really basic, you know, accounts and contacts.
Right.
I've done a join between my account and my contacts on the account ID. I can see that I've got Scribe's test account. Mark and Brendan are both my contacts in there. So it's each row of data is going to contain the header information.
And the detail.
And the detail.
Right.
So the header is going to be the same in every row that I get. So if I have 100 contacts, I'm going to see Scribe test account in K2 over and over and over and over and over
One
again.
time for each contact that belongs to that that account.
Exactly.
Yep.
The way that Scribe Online manages that, which is very different, is we do it with a more, you know, hierarchical approach. So we do it with XML in mind. So this is the exact same set of data represented slightly differently the way Scribe Online would interpret it. So within this, I have the very top, my account piece of my XML has that name, that Scribe test account.
Right.
and then I have repeating XML nodes that have those child entities, so the contacts that are in there.
So the way to think about it, Scribe Online is really processing that data as a hierarchical data structure.
Exactly, exactly. So when Scribe Online reads this, it can see that it's got one Scribe test account for the name for the primary entity. It will read through all the contacts. That will be what that for each child control block does.
Right.
Before it goes back out to that more header level and grabs Scribe test account 2 and then all of its contacts. So it has that knowledge that they're related because they're structurally built that way.
Right. Well, let's take a look at it.
Yeah, definitely. So within here, I'll go back to my query block and I'll do the same thing. I'll grab accounts. In this case, I'll start with just doing accounts and contacts. Super straightforward, very easy. Throw a little for each result in there, and we will put this into, where's my Salesforce? I'm going to put Salesforce to Salesforce just for demo examples of what we're doing here. So basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, first thing you're going to do is create that account. So I'm going to have that account creation. It's going to go through, map all the data I need mapped, do the standard type of interface I would do for my Scribe Online mappings. That's going to take care of that primary entity. Now I need to do something with the contacts. So in this case, I'm going to grab my for each child block.
Right. In this case, the contacts are the child
exactly.
entity.
Exactly. From that relationship definition that I've picked, it's going to be the child entity. And so what I do is I click into there, and I can pick any of those defined relationships. So I'm going to grab the contacts.
Any of the relationships you defined in the query.
Precisely.
Okay. Not that are available in the source itself.
Right.
So you have to specifically go into the query block and set the relationship up, and then you can pick from that drop-down list when you're in that for each child definition block.
Exactly.
Yep.
So then I can add my operations in there. I can have a long stack of them. I can do all my standard processing, but basically it's going to read through Mark and Brendan before getting down to this bottom section here and going on to the next account.
Okay.
So the other thing I can do then is I can add one more. So I'm going to go ahead and we're going to add a task in here, just because it's another child entity. Define that relationship, hit OK. So now I can add a second for each child loop. And when I go into it, I'm going to see the additional relationships. So like you mentioned, the only things I see in this are what I've picked as I want the usable relationships in this map.
You don't see every relationship that's in the source. You just see the ones you've defined in your query block.
Exactly. So then I can add that secondary upsert step. So I can have multiple for each child loops. And basically, it's that I can grab any of the child elements. So that basically there are multiple repeating nodes on that same level. So it doesn't have to be parent to child, parent to grandparent. It doesn't have to be that structure for me to be able to manage multiple repeating nodes. Within that, I can have them all on the same kind of sibling level.
Okay, so you can sort of jump around in the data structure, this theoretical or hierarchical data structure out there. You sort of jump around and pick and choose the ones you want to work with.
And you can even get even crazy with this. I could take that for each child, and I can nest it in another for each child. So I can get pretty intense with what I'm doing with these maps.
Intense data mapping.
Yeah, throw a couple if blocks
in
there. I mean, this gives you a very powerful tool that you can use in order to get that data over in the format you want, in the time frame you want, in the mechanism that you want.
And one other thing that's nice about this is that you don't have to worry about you don't have to worry about counting up, knowing how many child rows there are, and counting them up and keeping track to know when to go back and to get the next one. Scribe Online just it knows when you're at the last repeating node, right, for that level of hierarchy before it goes up and grabs the next parent.
Exactly. So it makes
that's all automatic.
It does a lot of the work for you. So it makes it a little bit easier. You don't have to worry about all those extra components of the integration. It just gives it to you on a silver platter.
Okay. Great. Is there anything else that we didn't cover that you'd like people to know about?
No, I think those are the big ones. Obviously, you can do a lot of things with child loops. We were talking about the parent-child and header detail, but you could get creative with it. So if you want to do some of the processing, pulling in a lot of different types of data, as long as they have that relationship, it's going to give it to you. The things that why it's important, again, is to throw back to our relationship video. Is those joins. They don't just give you the ability to have a more consolidated integration. It actually reduces cost. So when you run a row of data through Scribe, that's how we charge you guys. It's basically the amount you use is what you get billed for. by using relationships, anything that hangs off of that primary entity. So I have an account and 100 contacts. I can create 101 records. I have one account that was created and 100 contacts.
Yep.
It's really only one row of data.
So we're counting the parent source row,
Precisely,
not all the child source
exactly.
rows.
So that main entity you pick in that dropdown, that is what the row is that you're working with. Everything else is just kind of coming along for the ride.
Would that also save on the cost, so to speak, of fetching the data?
Yep.
Not just of the...
Exactly, because we do a lot of paging, so we pull a lot of that data in. So instead of making, constantly going out and knocking and saying, hey, is there more stuff? Is there more stuff? Give me more stuff. We're going out once, we're going to get a big batch of it, bring it over, work through it before we go back and get more.
Very good. Anything else?
That's pretty much it.
All right. Well, Brendan, if people wanted to find out more about you, to follow you, how can they do that?
I'm on Twitter, of course, at Brendan603.
Right.
And then, of course, I'm also on the Scribe Nerd blog.
Right. And I'm Mark at Scribe and also contribute to Scribe Nerd. So thanks for watching Scribe Studio. We hope you tune in another time and learn some more tips and tricks from our experts.